Hours after the tornado touched down here in West Point, Georgia, the ground was littered with severed power lines and debris. And 1 month later, people who live here are still trying to pick up the pieces. But some hospital workers are only now being able to go into Northside Medical, get some of their belongings, and finally go home. I want to show you something. You see this water line? It comes to about my knee. The owners of the store tell me that is how high the water levels were inside of their store. People who you've been meeting, have they voted already? Are they planning to go vote?
I'm much encouraged.
There were quite a few staff members who gathered outside of the hospital just behind me this morning, a lot of them feeling quite a few mixed emotions. So the ER stopped taking patients at 7. Increased patrols and also steel plates in the street are just a few of the changes Georgia State University Police Chief Anthony Coleman says are coming to campus after what he calls a weekend of unruly and unlawful behavior. It was a pretty emotional scene in court today. Just as the judge announced his decision, friends and family of Sergio Kitchens stormed out of the courtroom. Kendall Drive in Griffin, Georgia was once filled with family homes. Now the street is cluttered with debris left over from Thursday's tornado. At certain points during the game, you could actually feel the stand shaking with every single point. Fans young and old came out to send the team off to LA. But I want you to take a look at this sweet moment Coach Kirby had with a fan. You watch him, he walks past the bus, goes over, gives him a little fist bump. The game of the season, number 2, Tennessee at number 1, Georgia. The game is going on right now in Athens. The Asian population is not a monolith, and the issues they care about are as diverse as the people who make up the community.
Karys Belger spoke with the man's mother about why she decided to take the step.
Tony Walker says she still speaks to her son every day and tells me she hopes this lawsuit will prevent another family from experiencing the pain she continues to carry. Outside the DeKalb County Courthouse, Tony Walker told me what she loved about her son, Alexander Lamar.
Caring and loving in the midst of his diagnosis with schizophrenia.
Tony says it was something her son struggled with long after his diagnosis at the age of 17.
She asked me one day, why am I like this? And I said, it wasn't something that you did. Some people have blue eyes. You just so happen to have schizophrenia.
Tony says the 34-year-old was having a mental health crisis when he was arrested on December 18th of last year. A few days later, he was gone. His cause of death, hypothermia.
The guy that introduced himself as a chaplain told me, well, no, your son has been now released to the medical examiner's office.
Now Tony says she's seeking justice. A lawsuit filed by her attorney against the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office and others alleges Alexander was placed in a cell naked and when temperatures inside his cell reached 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It also alleges none of the staff took action to treat his ongoing mental illness or prevent his discomfort or death.
He died just like he was born, naked, nothing. Zero.
Near the halls of justice, she vowed the same for her son and others like him.
When they have training courses, I want it to be, this is what happened to this young man. This should never have happened.
Growing up in Columbus, Georgia, Alexis spent her life navigating the challenges of living with sickle cell disease.
They did not explain the risk factors to my mother of the potential of passing the disease to me. My father had sickle cell trait also.
Sickle cell is a condition that causes the normally round red blood cells to take on a crescent or sickle shape. This can cause painful episodes and other complications for people like Alexis. She says taking charge of her health care was not always easy as a child, and things got worse when she got older.
You encountered doctors and nurses who would ask you questions like, how long have you had sickle cell? And it's like, what do you mean, how long? It's the largest genetic disorder in the world.
Alexis says having doctors and nurses who didn't understand her condition made it difficult for her to get the care she needed. She now goes to Grady Memorial Hospital for treatment, and while she says her care has improved, she still has to travel more than an hour away from home.
The more educated the healthcare system that you are in, the better quality of life you have.
Expanding access to resources and education are at the heart of Corey Lewis's organization, the Red Moon Project.
And I just feel like that's important, but it's not really emphasized in most schools or most hospitals.
Corey started the organization when he had his own harrowing experience with a doctor. He now works with other health organizations and speaks to college and high school students so they can advocate for themselves when they walk into the doctor's office.
Do they understand what's really going on? Because yes, I'm telling you what I feel, but you're telling me something that is totally different that don't have nothing to do with me. And that's what happens with a lot of sickle cell patients in most cases.
He's hoping the Red Moon Project will help fill in the gaps about sickle cell disease and lead to better care for everyone. Karys Belger, 11 Alive News.
Someone once asked, what happens to a dream deferred? Jolene McGee would say it stays inside you until you can finally see it through.
Once upon a time, I didn't even think that it was possible.
For Jolene McGee, the path to graduation day has had a few challenges.
I lost my father when I was 18, and then my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2015. She passed away in 2017.
Through all this, Jolene says she worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, but the goal of getting her degree in human services was always in the back of her mind.
Most importantly, it was for my mother. I promised her that I was going to get back into school, and I had to fulfill that promise.
Today, with more than 500 other Georgia Gwinnett College graduates, Jolene took her first steps into her next chapter.
Today, Jolene will become the first person in her family to graduate from college.
Then the time came for her to walk. A moment made even more special by the cheers of her family, who've been beside her every step of the way.
This is a day of joy. I worked very hard, and I deserve this accolade. And I said that this morning, I'm going to wake up and choose not to be mediocre.
A dream deferred, now a promise kept.
Jolene has big plans now that she has her degree. She's a military spouse and says she wants to channel her experience into becoming a social worker for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.